Welcome to the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Elizabeth Berry and Jackie Jacobson. Elizabeth and Jackie are leaders of the Network of Executive Women student organization here at the Darden School of Business. I recently connected with them to talk more about their decision to pursue an MBA, what led them to Darden, their plans for new in the coming months, what they've enjoyed about their Darden experience so far, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. And as always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to the ExecMBA podcast so you never miss an update. And remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. And now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Elizabeth Berry and Jackie Jacobson. Elizabeth, Jackie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Brett. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. How's everything going? Elizabeth, how are you doing?
Doing well. Jackie and I were just talking before we started recording, wrapping up Q8 exams this weekend and other class projects, and looking forward to the Christmas break for sure.
How about you, Jackie? What are you up to? How's everything?
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I've wrapped up my exams, so I'm looking forward to a little bit of a break and the upcoming holidays.
All right. Well, I want to take a little time to get to know you all a bit better, give our prospective student listeners a chance to hear more about your backgrounds. And then we're going to start, transition into a conversation about the Network of Executive Women and some of the ways you're involved outside the classroom, if that sounds okay. So Jackie, can I come to you first? Can you tell us a little bit more about you and your background?
Yeah, of course. So I did my undergraduate in civil engineering. After that, I moved to DC to work for a general contractor. So my focus has been, kind of in the commercial real estate industry with an emphasis on construction. I worked there for about 4 years, and then I transitioned over to the development side. And I currently work for a developer in the DC area. Been there for about 4 years. And then I started my Darden experience a little over a year ago. So I'm part-time class of 2027.
Right. And Elizabeth, how about you?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Jackie and I are in different areas of the similar industry, but I have a mixed career background. With the early part was in procurement and operations. I worked for an outdoor power equipment manufacturing company, but I pivoted a while ago back to interior design. So I currently work for an architecture firm, and we do commercial projects in hospitality, higher education, and some civic and cultural work as well.
I want to stick with you, Elizabeth, and maybe talk to you a little bit more about how you decided to pursue an MBA. So what led you to say, what I want to do is go back to school and do an executive MBA program?
Yeah, happy to answer that. So when I was doing residential design for a little while, and then I switched to a commercial firm and was in their hospitality studio. So I was exclusively doing hotel renovations. And immediately when I started working on those projects, we were working for different developers and owners, and it really opened my eyes to what's happening on the other side, on the ownership side. I think that Jackie would be a little more familiar with. And that kind of got planted the seed, I would say, of like pursuing an MBA and just being more well-rounded as a leader, and also to possibly have some further career opportunities down the road.
Jackie, how did you decide you wanted to do an MBA and do the part-time program?
Yeah, so an MBA is actually something I had thought about pretty much like right after graduating undergrad. It was always in the back of my mind. I wasn't sure what the best timing was going to be for me. And kind of as I went through my career, it just was something that kind of kept coming back. So I looked into different options, and I definitely wanted to like continue to pursue my career at the same time. So that's what got me looking into like part-time programs. So yeah, that's kind of what started it, I guess. I mean, I really wanted to expand like my business acumen and supplement my professional experiences with, going back to school in that capacity.
And what is it specifically about Darden that appealed to you, Jackie?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I looked at a couple different part-time programs. Obviously, I wanted to remain in the DC area, but I had the opportunity to sit in on a class and then also attend one of the admitted students' dinners. And both of those experiences kind of gave me a little bit more insight into the program, specifically the class and learning about the case method, which I'm sure we'll touch more on. But that definitely got me intrigued about Darden specifically. And then I'll also say the flexibility of having the in-person versus virtual component and alternating within the part-time program is something that definitely drew me in as well. Just having that flexibility with balancing work and school and life. Yeah.
What is it about the class visit in particular that captured your attention?
Yeah, it was a lot more like the case method, it was a lot more engaging than what I had experienced in undergrad, which was more lecture style based, in my engineering classes. So having the case method at Darden, it was a lot more engaging, like more of a conversation instead of a question and answer. And so the class just kind of would take a turn and obviously when I'm sitting in this as a prospective student, I'm trying to follow where it's going. But it's funny, the case that I sat in on was actually a case that I've done in the core curriculum. So it was great to see it as a preview and then do it myself.
What was that case, or what is that case?
Okay, that's a great question. It was either accounting or finance, and I think it was on target. But yeah, it was a very interesting case.
Elizabeth, how about you? What got you interested in Darden specifically?
Well, I'm from Virginia, Brett, so I, have heard great things about Darden and UVA my whole life. I didn't go there undergrad, but had friends who had gone to UVA, gone to Darden in both the residential and professional degree programs, primarily the executive MBA. So this was the only school I applied to, and I, just took a shot and it worked out. So it's been wonderful.
And how did you think about the executive MBA program? Because it's, one weekend per month, online class, typically a couple nights per week. How did you think about the schedule and the design of the program?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to consider the fit because it's demanding on top of working full time. But I'm based in Richmond, so the part-time, and I wasn't able to move at the time. So the part-time format didn't quite work for me, but I was still close enough to do the exec MBA. And I also had to think through because I'd already taken 2 years out of working for grad school for design. So I had to consider if I was willing to take another 2 years out of the workforce for a full-time program versus executive. So, and, the executive MBA at Darden brings so many different people from various professional backgrounds. And that was something that was a really big draw for me. Being in the field I'm in, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to open my eyes and talk with classmates who just work in different fields. And it really enriches the classroom experience.
Jackie, I'm curious. So obviously you thought about an MBA for a while. You come to Darden, you're a part-time MBA student. What was that adjustment to school like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely an adjustment to figure out how to balance, working full time with now having school at night and then obviously, a personal life. I think for me, like I've always done really well with time management, but this kind of took it to like the next level. And I didn't realize how much free time I actually had before I started the program that I now, I'm spending on school. So I would say, yeah, it's an adjustment period, but I gave myself some grace in the beginning. And one of the people in the class above me said kind of early on was, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And that really like resonated with me because I think I'm over a year in, but when I first started the program, I was super excited. I'm still very excited, but kind of, adjusting to that workload and realizing, like how much you can put on your plate and still do well at work and at school. So yeah, I would say it was definitely an adjustment, but I feel very settled into the program and being able to balance that with outside priorities as well.
Yeah, the standard pacing for the part-time program is 33 months. So, you gotta figure out how to manage your energy as you go through that, typically taking about 2 classes at a time. Some flexibility once you get to the elective period, but that's the general sort of standard pacing for folks. I'm curious, Jackie, what does your schedule look like in terms of how you're managing the work that you have to do for the part-time program?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say every week looks a little different, honestly. And with my work, there's been ebbs and flows. And so I've really taken advantage of some times when it's been a little bit slower at work, and then I can kind of reshift things around and spend more time on school. But yeah, I mean, just preparing for the cases ahead of time, it's very doable. My weekends might look a little bit different than they did before, but just kind of shifting things around and prioritizing the cases and getting everything done ahead of time. And also the learning team. So my learning team, in the beginning of core, we're really meeting once a week and reviewing those cases together, which was really helpful. In the beginning of core, once we're kind of building that foundation, it was really helpful to kind of bounce questions and ideas off of my learning team, and then going into class feeling a little bit more prepared. So I really kind of leaned on them in the beginning of the core as well.
How do y'all work together? Sometimes teams meet, other times it's more at a distance, just share documents, virtually. How does your team work together?
Yeah, so we would meet like virtually once a week. We'd meet on like Sundays before our Monday class, and we would review the cases for both classes for the week. Now that we're at the end of core, like transparently, we're not meeting anymore. It's more as like an as needed basis, or for specific courses like marketing part 2. We had this simulation, so obviously for that we had to build a schedule to meet. But I think in the beginning, it was really helpful for me just to kind of build up those core classes, and having that extra time with my learning team to build up a little bit of confidence to be able to speak confidently and meaningfully in class.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, in the part-time program, the core is really the first 18 months. And so you can probably get pretty good at things as you go across that first year and a half. And although I'm sure it's nice to know you have a group you can lean on, even in these later stages of the core. Elizabeth, what was the adjustment like for you to the executive MBA program? Some kind of journey for Jackie, right? Trying to figure out how work and school and all these things fit together.
Yeah, similar to Jackie, I think it definitely opens your eyes to the time of to your time constraints that you have. And especially being in a creative field, getting into the core classes really stretched my muscles in a different way. And so I'm taking like accounting and finance and all these things. But I similarly would lean on my learning team. And we had one of the larger learning teams, or a group of 8, but it was really fun. And we still, outside of the core, into electives, make a point to get together during our OGR weekends, and have really formed a close friendship that I think you see a lot that comes out of the learning teams. But yeah, the adjustment, it's just sharpening your schedule and knowing when to rest and when to really push through certain classes, and taking advantage of the pockets of time you might have for family and friends, and then leaning into when it's time to really turn it on for school.
What's your schedule look like week to week?
Yeah, so we're in electives now. I'm in the class of 26, so I'm like a year ahead of Jackie. And what's neat about Darden's professional degree programs is you can take electives in the part-time and executive classes. So I had a different kind of schedule this past quarter. So I was in 2 part-time classes and 1 executive MBA class. So my OGR weekends were fairly free, which was a really nice break compared to the marathon that they are of class all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Instead, I got to experience the part-time life of class 6 to 9, which is a long day. So my hat's off to the part-timers. And then I think coming up in Q9, it'll be a similar blend. So, and it changes the day of the week in electives. So no longer on that Tuesday, Thursday schedule that we were on before.
Yeah, you're right. The distance sessions can vary depending upon the course that you choose in the elective period for executive MBA students. There's some electives that have distance class on Monday, some that have distance class on Tuesday, some Wednesday, some Thursday. And to your point around the weekend residencies, we talked about this on the podcast before, but for folks who are less familiar, for the executive MBA students, there's some electives that meet on Fridays during a weekend residency, some that meet on Saturday and Sunday mornings during a weekend residency, and some that meet on Saturday and Sunday afternoons during a weekend residency. So students can have different schedules when they get to the elective period in the executive MBA program and part-time MBA as well, right? So part-time MBA students, they're lockstep through the first 18 months of the program. Then when they get to the elective period, they have some choice as to how fast or slow they'd like to complete the remaining credits. And students, to Elizabeth's point, can take classes across programs. So part-time MBA students can take executive MBA electives. Executive MBA students can take part-time MBA electives. Elizabeth, what's that been like to be in class with maybe new students maybe you haven't seen since maybe ever, maybe the first week of school? Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, some are new for sure, but it was kind of fun because I've gone to Morocco for my global residency in October, and I had some part-time students who were on that trip as well, and then in some of my classes. So that was a nice another way that there's a lot of blend across the courses. But I think it just again enriches the Darden experience and the classroom experience. Getting to meet new classmates, I never think it's bad to meet new people. So I really enjoyed it.
What was Morocco like?
Oh my gosh, Morocco is amazing. I encourage everybody to put it at the top of their list for global residencies. Chris Parker, who's an operations professor, led the trip. And I think he's leading it next year. And we were in Casablanca for the first part and then Marrakesh for the second bit. And it just, yeah, I only did one global residency, and you always wish you can do another one. So that would be my other piece, is try to do as many as possible, because it really is just a fun, wonderful experience.
Yeah, you can do up to 4 and become a Gemba format student as an executive MBA student. One is required. A requirement to go and have an incredible course abroad with your classmates. It's a funny thing to say, it's required, but yes, one's required, but you can add more. And oftentimes, to your point, Elizabeth, when people get back from that global residency, they typically are trying to find a second or third or even fourth way to get abroad. So I want to talk about your experiences outside the classroom. So Jackie, you're one of the leaders of the Network of Executive Women Student Organization. How did you decide to get involved as a leader of this organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually joined the board this year, so I'm fairly new. But coming into Darden, I really wanted to build a network of other women in business. So my current, I currently work on the construction side of commercial real estate development. And, I've been in a male-dominated field my whole career. Civil engineering was also male-dominated as well in my undergrad. So I really wanted to find a network of like-minded women. And so I thought this was a great place to start, and wanting to kind of get involved. And I think in the past, it's been a little bit more focused with the EMBA students, which is awesome. And as a part-timer, I wanted to kind of help bridge the gap a little bit and get a little bit more involvement from some of the women in my cohort and other part-timers. So, yeah.
I feel like that's a journey all of our student organizations for the professional degree programs are on, right? They historically were typically executive MBA clubs and organizations, and now we have part-time MBA students. And so figuring out how to bring these two populations together, I think, club's a great way to build some of these connections, but they have different schedules, and so trying to figure out how to offer programming that meets both student audiences, kind of where they are, that's tricky. It's something complicated for a leadership board to think about. Elizabeth, how did you decide you wanted to get involved with the Network of Executive Women?
Yeah, I was kind of encouraged to get involved by some friends in the class of 25. And I also I went to an all-girls school, and like Jackie, like architecture, construction, it is pretty male dominated. So, and at Darden, I think, growing the number of women in our classes, but we're still in the minority. So it just aligned with something I wanted to be involved with, and was a great way to do that and to get to know the women in the part-time classes and other EMBA classes. And so it's been fun. I'm looking forward to our spring programming that we're working toward. And so, like Jackie, I'm new to the leadership team. So we're working on a variety of events to address the schedules, like you were saying, of part-time and then different MBA classes. So a mix of virtual or kind of connect with people on your own time or Friday Night Live panel is what we have in store in 26.
How were you thinking about the kinds of events and programming you wanted to offer? Like, what was sort of the orienting thought for your group?
Yeah, I think when we had our leadership team discussions, the biggest focus was just on building connections, and then also wanting to offer different formats and different opportunities. So to like hear from a panel, hear from a speaker, have something that's more conversational, like a coffee chat, have something where you can just connect with your peers, and trying to really hit different levels that might appeal to different people and their schedule and what they're interested in.
Jackie, are you involved with any other clubs or organizations other than New?
Yes, I am. I'm also on the leadership board of the Darden Professional Real Estate Club. So that's something that I helped found with a couple other people in my cohort this year. And that was also kind of, so there's a full-time club for real estate. And so we wanted to be able to kind of bridge that gap and also build connection with full-time students because they have a lot of programming built in. And so we kind of wanted to leverage some of that and build a partnership with them. So similarly, we've done some virtual guest speakers. And then we've kind of partnered with the full-time club to provide access for professional students to either real estate tracks or different financial modeling training opportunities. So we're excited as well for what we have in store for 2026.
Elizabeth, I think you are also involved with that club.
Yes, I have the pleasure of being just a member in the club. But Jackie and the team have been doing a great job leading it, and it's been fun. I'm signed up for one of those real estate financial modeling courses, so gonna try to tackle that during the Christmas holiday. And what else? Oh yeah, we went to the real estate conference that was hosted by UVA back in November, and so that was really fun to get to see club members at that event. And yeah, it's been great.
Was that down in Charlottesville?
It was on grounds, and Jackie can speak to this probably a little bit better than I can, but UVA is unique in that their real estate center is across the whole school. So it's not just associated with the undergraduate level or Darden residential, it's for everybody. And so you get a wide variety of attendees. And they had some really wonderful panels, talked about hospitality and adaptive reuse, which is what my work is in currently. So it was really fun and energizing.
For those who are less familiar with what adaptive reuse is, what does that mean?
It essentially is like taking an older building and giving it a new purpose. So one example, there's a restaurant nearby my office, and it used to be like a fire station, and now it's a great spot for lunch. So that type of project.
Not exactly the same as like all the office buildings that they have talked about turning into apartments, or maybe slightly related?
Like retrofitting. Yeah, there's a lot of different terms that that kind of allude to that type of work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an ongoing conversation in the Washington, D.C. metro area, what to do with some of this office space that's not being utilized and given the housing issues that we have. Jackie, did you go to the real estate conference?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it this year, but I'm really looking forward to attending next year's conference.
Yeah, I'm curious about the real estate club. Jackie, you mentioned you're one of the founding members. How did you decide that this is something that the programs needed?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, that I had joined the full-time club, and they have a lot of excellent events, and a lot of them are, housed down in Charlottesville. So we wanted to kind of figure out a way to kind of create a connection with Charlottesville and also all the, great professionals that sit in Roslyn or that travel to Roslyn. So we thought, let's just start our own professional degree club and figure out how we can kind of like enhance the existing network and kind of take advantage of the great things that they're doing in Charlottesville, and then also uh, leverage the local alumni and just kind of expand the network.
Elizabeth, how are you thinking about like clubs and organizations as fitting within your executive MBA student experience? Because we might have some listeners thinking about executive MBA program and even surprised to hear that we have clubs and organizations for these students. How do you see this fitting into your overall experience?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brett. I really just see it as a way to enrich the overall experience. I'll give another shout out to Cav Angels, which is another group that people can join as a way to like look into angel investing and learn about startups. So like there's a lot of different opportunities to learn about other industries through the clubs. And so I think there are club fairs that they would have at the beginning of the school years that are great to kind of just make people aware of like what the offerings even are. But I really just viewed it as a way to another way to enrich my experience and get to know people through Darden.
How are you thinking about clubs and organizations, Jackie? As a part-time MBA student, again, sometimes people think this is something they would have to give up to do a working professional program. Obviously, we have these kinds of opportunities at Darden, although it can vary depending upon the student you're talking to. Some people are really involved, some people are less involved. Why was this important to you, and how do you see this adding to your experience?
Yeah, I felt like it was something that could supplement my experience and really help with kind of the networking aspect of Darden. But then the nice thing too, and you kind of hit on it, is when you join a club, it's not a huge commitment, especially for both the clubs that we've discussed. Like you can kind of opt in, opt out. Like if there's an event that you're really interested in, attend. If there's one that's not as applicable, that's totally fine. So I really like that flexibility, given how much all of the people in the program have going on. So just kind of being able to cater it towards what you want to get out of it. What you put in is what you're going to get out. So yeah, I really see it as like a supplemental tool to the Darden experience and just really making it what you want it to be.
I want to come back and talk about new a little bit more, if that's okay. And so, Elizabeth, one of the sort of consistent themes I think we've heard from past new leaders on the podcast is how much new functions like a community within the community. And both of you referenced, the desire to kind of build these kind of connections and network for yourself while you're here. How do you think of new and the function that it serves, in terms of supporting your experience?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. It's a great way to just connect with different women across the program. And I think in particular, I'll speak to like knowing a few first-time moms who were students. So you're a working professional, you're an executive MBA student, and then you're also becoming a mother and going through a big family transition. And I think people found a lot of support outside of just like the friends they've made through having these other groups. And it's a great way to connect with alumni and kind of just expand your reach and look at people who have gone before you and learn from them in their careers.
Jackie, how about for you? How do you think of new within the broader, professional degree program community?
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that sentiment of like community within community. I think that like within my own cohort, I found just like incredible women and just wanted to kind of create those connections with women in the EMBA program and other part-time classes. So I felt like new is just a great place to build those connections.
Well, Jackie, I'm wondering what are you looking forward to in the months ahead? Right, you're at the end of core. I mean, getting very close to it. You've got R2 back in Charlottesville coming up, electives starting. What are you excited about?
Yeah, a lot to look forward to. I'm very excited to wrap up core. It feels like kind of a milestone in the program for me, so I'm very excited. And then to go back to Charlottesville for R2, I've heard great things about R2 and just kind of a way to uh, like reconnect with the class again and kind of finish out that core milestone together. So very excited for that. And then electives, also very ready for electives. There's so many different there were so many different options. So I'm still going back in my head. I'm like, for the add drop period, maybe I'll switch some things up. But I think it'll be a great opportunity to kind of dig in a little bit more in some areas that I'm interested in, or just totally pick a new topic and see if it sparks interest as well.
Any particular electives that you would want to mention here that you're planning to take?
Yeah, well, there is an intro to real estate development class. It's a exec elective, so I did sign up for that. I'm excited for that course because it's very relevant to my professional experience. And then, I've kind of been debating on just picking a course that's totally outside of my wheelhouse. There's a healthcare finance course. I don't have any experience in healthcare, but I think it could be very interesting. So thinking about adding that one as well.
Elizabeth, I'm curious about what you're looking forward to in the months ahead.
Yeah. So on the social front, we are having a Darden prom in January. So looking forward to that. And we invited our professors. So it'll be fun to, actually see professors we hadn't seen since first year again and get to socialize with everybody. So looking forward to that. And also I am just excited to continue with electives. I'm in the same real estate development class that Jackie's going to take in our Q10. And then I added in a handful of entrepreneurial classes. But I think Darden does a great job of supporting people who are interested in starting their own ventures, and which is just a little bit more for fun for me. But it's been really interesting to learn and kind of just think through what some other business ideas could be. So
do you ultimately have an entrepreneurial interest, or are you just, again, curious?
It's more of a curiosity for now, so we'll see. And the other thing with getting your MBA and going through all of this is like, this is kind of, again, just like the start of another step in your career. Your career is very long. So some advice that I got before was like, the next job you have after your MBA, like, isn't the ultimate thing that you end up doing. And so I think it's just nice to be able to set yourself up well for a lot of flexibility and a lot of potential that you might encounter in your career.
Well, Jackie, I'm curious if you have any words of advice for our prospective students who are listening to this podcast. Anything you'd encourage them to keep in mind as they think about their own MBA journeys?
Definitely. I would definitely, if you have the opportunity, sit in on a class. That way you can kind of see the case method firsthand. Because that was something that really, really drew me to the program. So I would definitely recommend sitting on a class. If you're able to connect with either current students or alumni and just hear about their experience, I think that would be really beneficial as well. Like even just being in the program myself and talking to students in classes above me or in the EMBA program, I've gained a lot of insight that's been really helpful. So I think if you're able to reach out or connect with somebody, that'll really help you in your journey. So yeah.
Elizabeth, how about you? Any words of advice?
For prospective students, I would definitely encourage you to talk to current students or recent alumni. I did that, and I kind of sought out people who had an architecture background and then pivoted into getting an MBA because I was just curious. I wanted to learn more about how the two went hand in hand and what they ended up doing. And then I think my advice for admitted students, if you're listening to the podcast too, is when you start the program, just to stay curious and be reflective and just be really willing to engage fully in the whole Darden experience, and just foster those relationships across the staff and your classmates and your professors, because it's really just so enriching and rewarding for sure.
Yeah, we stress with students that this is not a transactional experience. If you're only focused on the degree, this is maybe not the right place for you, right? It's about a holistic experience, even for our professional degree students, right? You have a chance to be involved outside the classroom. You can be a club leader, you can be a section representative, or on the student association board. So many different ways to have an impact. And of course, everybody comes here because they want to be an active participant in their learning experience. It's case methods, discussion based. And so that group is inclined to do things together outside of the classroom. To your point, Elizabeth, about prom. And I think our part-time MBA students have probably their winter ball coming up, which is always a highlight. So there's always a lot to do in addition to school. Even for as busy as y'all are, you still manage to do other things too. So thank you both for coming on the podcast. Always great to talk about the Network of Executive Women. I think we've had leaders for that organization on the podcast pretty much every year.
Great. Thank you so much, Brett.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And that was my conversation with Elizabeth Berry and Jackie Jacobson, two leaders of the Network of Executive Women student organization here at the Darden School of Business. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's ExecMBA, at darden.virginia.edu. Till next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.